Gratitude, urgency, catharsis, and a little bit of rage.
He was a junkie. His wife overdosed. His best friend overdosed.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty passionate about politics and what's going on right now. And I don't think that it's the time to sing about, flowers.
Built on sacred burial grounds, because I feel like this band was built on a sacred burial ground, and now we're paying the price.
It takes countless hours of hard work to make something appear effortless. You're going to have to work 3 times as hard as most people choosing another path.
Whole thing is like you're playing your heart out and giving it your all, regardless of who's in the audience and how many people are there. And by the way, once I signed to Warner Brothers, my mom stopped asking if I was going to get a real job.
Hey there, welcome back to Ross with Kate Ekman. Got a really fun and special episode here today, something I've never done before. We have a whole band here. So there's going to be 3 gentlemen that I'm talking to, 3 musical legends. They're in a group called UltraBomb. It's a punk rock supergroup. I had to write that down. I don't even know what a supergroup is. I guess it's just legends coming together. So I'm a big fan of longevity in terms of my health, but I'd really like to talk to these guys about how to have longevity in any career, but especially one that's so challenging to get into in the first place. So let's bring in these legends right now. We have Greg Norton. He's a founding member of Hüsker Dü. Derek O'Brien, he's a founding member of Distortion, not distribution. And Ryan Smith, who's been a part of many successful projects, including Asylum. So guys, welcome to Raucous.
Thank you.
And I also want to mention that we're recording at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So I love that I've got these guys up bright and early. You don't think of rock stars up early to record, but I appreciate them being here. So I think a lot of people have this misconception that rock stars is just like no one's showing up on time and everyone's on drugs and partying. And yet here you guys are, and you've been in the industry for so many years. What do you think is part of the secret sauce in terms of success or having longevity in such a challenging career and environment?
Well, I think one thing is you figure out that being up super late and partying all the time and doing all the drugs and having fun, you work through that phase, and then you realize it is a business and that there are other people that you're responsible to. And I think musicians that can make that switch in their brain are the ones who go on to have a long career and thrive in the business. And the ones that don't figure it out, they flame out. So
how do you have the audacity as a young child to know you have a musical talent, obviously love doing music, but even getting into the business, especially when, a lot of us grew up with parents like, get a real job, or, you can't have a career in music. It's a fun hobby. Where does this audacity to play and perform and even get in the business and make a career of it? How does that even happen?
Personally, for myself, I was, working in a record store in 1978. And that's where I met Grant Hart, and we eventually met Bob and started, punk rock was exploding, and we started the band because it really, there is that do-it-yourself ethos in punk rock that, anybody can get up and play music. You don't have to be like this super talented maestro of your craft. The main thing is just to, get on stage and do it. For a long time, I still don't necessarily consider myself a great musician, but I love playing and I keep at it. And I think I am, getting better at it, for one thing. But I think really it's, you fall in love with doing it and having that creative outlet. And that's kind of where I came from. So,
Ryan, do you want to take us back to being a kid and then even entering into the business?
Yeah, well, I remember my dad saying, if you're going to choose to be a musician, there's nothing I can say that's going to convince you to not do it. You're either going to do it or you're not. And if you're going to do it, nothing will stop you. And that's it seems like what most musicians that I've known, that's been the attitude is, they're going to do it. Nothing's going to stop them, whether you just picked up a guitar 2 weeks ago or whether, you've been working on it in your bedroom for years before you decide to get out on stage. So I think it's just kind of a drive that a lot of musicians have that is something that's unstoppable. You just do it. And I think you also have to accept when you're going to do it that you're going to have to work 3 times as hard as most people choosing another path. It's because it's super hard, and you have to work lots of jobs to make it work when you're starting out. And even when you're not starting out, it's a lot of work, and going into it, I think you have to be up for the challenge. So yeah, I think that's the kind of audacity that musicians have.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of ignorance is bliss, because you all did enter when you're younger. And Derek, I'll let you just even talk about that, and you're talking about how you have to work that much harder. And the music industry, I think too, with just, abuse allegations and so much has come out, and I just hear about deplorable conditions. But how do you navigate this as a young person and not, so many people do pass away or do become addicts, or so many failed marriages, so many different things in every career. But how did you really navigate, I guess, some of the pitfalls or some of the dark, toxic things that we hear about?
I mean, for me, starting out early, I just threw myself into music. Like, I was a very OCD kid. And literally in junior high, like during summer, I would lock myself in my room for 8 hours and practice. And, got into different kinds of music, jazz and classic rock. And then, had the opportunity to play with Social Distortion. And like, oh, sure, I can dumb this down and play punk rock. On a personal level, my dad was a very stern police officer, and I was very rebellious. I was, disciplined in my music, but pretty much in every other way, I was like, the system,
I appreciate you bringing up drug use, because it is synonymous with Rockstar and music. And I'm sure you've all seen a lot of tragedy up close and personal. And you're also here with me today, and you're still very successful in what you do. Anything you want to share in terms of what was offered to you, what else you saw, and how you managed to, I guess, escape that path, and anything you want to say about some friends that you've maybe lost, or I think just anything you want to touch on in terms of drug use in the industry?
That's a hot topic. Everybody, not all at once here. So I'll share a story. The Meat Puppets were really good. Yeah, they're the Kirkwood brothers are really good friends of mine. And Chris Kirkwood, the bass player, he was a junkie. His wife overdosed. His best friend overdosed. But, he was telling me that when they signed to London Records and they were doing arena tours with Stone Temple Pilots, it was, you'd get backstage and there would be people there going like, what do you want? What do you want? And we'll get you whatever you want. And it was just that easy access that kind of fueled that. Fortunately for Chris, he did get himself clean, but the way that happened was he ended up spending 3 years in a federal penitentiary because he had an incident at a post office and a security cop shot him in the ass. But that got him clean and got him back together with his brother Kirk for the Meat Puppets to keep making music. I don't know if you can necessarily say that, wow, what a lucky break, you got sent to prison, but it got him clean and he's still alive and he's a beautiful human being. But I think that's one of those things is people do get wrapped up in that, and there is that access to it, and that's been going on forever. Drugs and the music industry definitely seem to go hand in hand and have for quite some time. Kind of gets back to what I originally stated is like the people that do thrive are the ones that figure out like, okay, if I keep doing this, it's going to, I'm going to die, or I can concentrate on my craft. And, like Ryan was saying, you have to work 3 times as hard. And the old saying, hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. And I think that's absolutely 100% true.
Yeah. Ryan, what do you want to say in terms of, I know you've seen a lot too, and how it's really impacted you. And I have compassion for the drug use because it's just in your face. It's the environment, it's the culture, but also you're expected to be up and all late hours of the night performing and entertaining, and then keep doing it and traveling around and before big budgets and fancy tour buses, if you ever even reach that level. But how has that, drug use being synonymous with your entire career and being so accepted. How has it really impacted you?
Well, for me, I had family members that had issues with struggling with substance abuse and things like that. And I saw early on how damaging it was and how it wasn't a good, glamorous path to go down. So like everybody was saying here, I mean, it's everywhere in a sense when you have access to a lot, and you do have to keep yourself amused sometimes, where you're waiting. There's a lot of hurry up and wait in the world of rock and roll. And that can sometimes be tempting to fill your time with things when you have access to things. That I've had my own struggles with these things, but it never got bad. Like I never had a drug problem or anything. And definitely know a lot of people that have. In fact, I just heard from an old friend who, had the world pretty much at his feet. Like he was he was on the cusp of being extremely successful, and drugs really, really, really messed him up. And I just heard from him the other day. I only hear from him like once every blue moon. It's just sad. I guess like it's sad and yet it's really, really common. So I think as musicians, again, it's the same thing. It's like you just have to accept it's a part of the reality, but also try to keep your head on straight and stay focused on the work. That's really what keeps me going personally.
Do you think that drugs help with creativity or take away from it? I feel I'm my most creative when I'm in silence or in nature and connected to source. But do you think that's part of it too, is helps you write some good music?
More often than not, no.
Thank you for saying that. Wow.
I think the people that believe that the drugs help their creativity, that's their perception is skewed by those drugs. And they might think like, wow, this is the greatest thing I ever wrote. And other people hear it and they're like, okay.
Thank you I hope that soundbite there, I want every young person, every young musician especially to hear. Thank you I actually wasn't expecting that. Thank you for that. Derek, do you want to say anything to kind of round out this topic?
What comes to mind, for instance, Stevie Ray Vaughan, who had a drug problem and was an alcoholic, he got sober and then did his best album and then died in a helicopter crash. And I just imagine people who are doing all this great work while they're doing drugs. David Bowie and Elvis Costello at one point were each putting 3 albums out in a year because they'd stay up on speed on tour and write their albums and just, constantly create. But, how much work and what quality could they have been putting out if they were not on drugs? Just because they happen to be creative geniuses and happen to be on drugs and still get albums made doesn't mean that the drugs helped them.
So that brings me to my next question. As a creative, and there's so many people, even if they're stuck in corporate and they'd love to heighten their creative gifts so they could step out and have creative careers, how do you, whoever wants to take it, I'd like to hear from each person, and I need it for myself too. How do you personally tap into that creativity and not put so much pressure on yourself to write the hit song or to come up with something by Tuesday at 4 p.m. or, have this whole album done in a month? And because again, you've done it for so long and you're downplaying your success and gifts, which I appreciate your humility, but how do we tap into our creativity a bit more?
I think it's different for everyone. And like you pointed out, after you've been doing it for a long time, it's like, okay, I'm going to roll up my sleeves, pack a lunch and go to the studio and be creative. And other people look at you like, what? How is that even possible? But like you tap into it in different ways, I would say, and I think it's just the biggest thing is for me that I've discovered is just trusting your intuition that you have it. And you have it to tap into. And so that confidence allows you to treat it like a regular task or job or thing that you do, and you don't question it. It's there somewhere. It's going to be different, maybe a little bit each time, but you're going to find it. When people start doubting themselves and have to, I'll never be good. And some people, maybe it's not for them. What you have to decide is whether it's for you or whether it's not for you. Once you decide it's for you, then you're going to find your angle. You're going to find your creative energy and you'll find a path to it.
Yeah, I think what really helps is being a good listener and being able to hear what is going on in the room and being open to, ideas from everybody. I think we've all have worked with particular musicians that have a mindset that, well, my way's the right way and it's going to be like this. And I think that stifles the process. I think the best things happen when everybody is open and they're listening to what's going on in the room and playing off of that instead of thinking like, well, what about my agenda?
Yeah, that synergy is like where you get the best of all the cumulative creative energy of everyone in the room times whatever combination that equals. That is definitely the big payoff and how you do it.
Right. And that goes for producers too. I mean, the best producers are also listening and not just trying to put their stamp on something.
For sure.
Yeah, I think one time I heard somebody say inspiration is for amateurs. That's kind of true in a sense, because you just have to, like Derek said, roll up your sleeves, show up to work every day. And if you do, and you allow yourself the freedom to fail and you allow yourself to experiment, you take some of the pressure off and you come up with better ideas because you're not filtering yourself too soon. So you just go and it's messy and you just try ideas, you chase every weird inspiration and then just see where it goes. And then you filter it later. And like what Greg was saying, I mean, that's such a important part of the synergy with the team is you sort through the ideas and you see what sticks, like what everybody feels, and it all starts to gel. So I think it's showing up to the job, doing the work, and then having the synergy of everybody working like a team.
Inspiration is for amateurs. I've never heard that. That's genius.
That is great.
Yeah.
I think like to Greg's point, it's as much staying out of the way when some idea is happening for somebody as it is jumping in and having the ideas. Just like a good song, you overplay, you're crushing it, destroying it. If you don't try your ideas, then you've missed an opportunity. So it's a very delicate balance.
Yeah, and I think when you've got a group that gets together and people are listening, things come together relatively quickly. Particularly like with the three of us, we've got very deep toolboxes to dig into, and that helps in the process.
Yeah, Greg. How many shows have these three people played together total at this point?
At this point now, we are up to 5 shows plus the cameo in the Punk Rock Garage.
I was just going to ask, the three of you have played with so many different groups, and now you're together with UltraBomb, and you've played 5 shows together. So how do you not just make it believable, and we all think you've been playing together for years, how do you even go about connecting both energetically and musically so well, so quickly?
Well, I can say from my point of view, I've always, both of these guys here, I've admired them for years and their bands they're in. And so it's like playing with them feels really natural. Like it's just not even, there's no effort into trying to make it feel like it gels. It just gels because there's some kind of, at least on my end, I feel a musical connection to what they're doing. That's almost, it feels innate. So it's pretty easy, actually. When the chemistry's right, it's easy. And when the chemistry's wrong, you have to really try to make it appear a way. But I haven't felt a need to appear. And, it feels 100% natural with these guys. So.
Oh, well, thanks, Ryan.
What do you say about that, Greg? How do you make the magic work here?
Like I said, I think it comes down to listening and being open. Ryan was kind of thrown right into the fire when he joined the band. He had a couple of weeks to learn a set while he was on tour in Europe with Still Asylum, and then we had 2 rehearsals before the show. And the first night,
yep.
It was rough. It was the first time the 3 of us played together. And then the next night, it was like everything just fell into place. And the show was great. I mean, obviously, yeah, were there some bumps in the set? Yes, but we're the only ones that noticed. And it just, felt really natural playing with Ryan, and there again, like Brian was saying, it's like, when you have good people and you don't have to like put on a mask where you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to fake my way through this just because I'm a professional or whatever. But this was not gelling with these people. It's like, the three of us have definitely been gelling, There again, we've all been playing for a long time. And like I said, we've got deep toolboxes to dig into and tricks to pull out, and listening to everybody, you know how to integrate all that stuff. So.
And I'm hearing really embodiment, because forgive me, I'm not a musician. I so appreciate those of you who have this skill and this gift. Is it something where you just, when I watch you perform, I feel it in my bones, in my body, and it looks like you're not trying, and I know that you are. And again, to learn so many different songs, and I don't even know how you do it. Is it less thinking and more feeling? That's the athlete in me. I'm just so curious, for those of us who can't do what you do, maybe walk us through that feeling on stage, or to go from so many different bands and songs and members and still show up so present and just letting it rip. How do you even do it?
It takes countless hours of hard work to make something appear effortless.
Yeah, it's like practice is so you gain that muscle memory, and then rehearsals are, to prepare for the show. So when you get to the show and you're playing it, you don't have to sit there and concentrate and think too much, and it just flows. Although I'm sure all three of us have also been at a certain point on the road towards the end of a tour, you might be up there and you're playing, but you're also going like thinking to yourself while you're playing, wow, I wonder if there's laundry at the hotel tonight, stuff like that.
Thank you for the honesty. Derek?
Yeah. I mean, that I'd like to add to what Ryan said. His first show with us in Minneapolis was him learning the songs while he was on tour, just with headphones, and then showing up. Yeah, 2 rehearsals. The first one was like, okay, the songs are sounding a little different than the record arrangements and this and that. And then the second one just gelled. And then he played the show with us he first sat in with a friend's band on the bill. Then he played with his own band, the Melismatics. Then he jumped into playing for the first time with UltraBomb and played the set, singing and playing guitar for a 3-piece where there's nothing to hide behind. So that's what a champion, that's what that looks like.
Wow. So I'm experiencing what makes UltraBomb so special, each of you individually, and then of course collectively, and I'm experiencing and feeling the mutual respect here. What else is so fun for each of you about this group in particular, and how you've kind of brought all of your experiences from childhood and all the other bands and all the ups, downs, highs, lows to make this really, really special? And now we can all experience you on tour, and I want to hear what else is coming out. But I'm feeling, again, I talk about embodiment. I can feel the specialness of this group.
Thank you.
Yeah. For me, it's the music. We're writing music that's fresh and current. I kind of hate the term supergroup, because the reality is former members of that doesn't really translate into ticket sales. What gets people out to your show is what you're doing now. And promoters are also like that, where it's like, well, what have you done for me lately type of thing. They don't care what you did in your past. So it's writing new music that is fresh. And we're definitely not a nostalgia act. We're not trying to just recreate something from our past. I think a lot of bands do get stuck in that, where either, trying to do something new, but they're really just copying what they've done in the past, or even established artists that stick to their formula that works instead of pushing themselves to do something different. So in a way, I think we kind of have the best case scenario where we're able to create this new music, but also I don't think any of us are going like, well, hey, don't you know who I am? So, in reality, former members of bands don't necessarily sell tickets, but what they do get is usually at least 1 or 2 guys with a stack of vinyl that they want autographed.
Don't you know who I think I am?
Don't you know who I think I am? That's right.
So here's we've played a total of 5 shows together. And now that we're, an old road band together after these 5 shows, next week, Monday, I believe, we're getting together and just coming up with new material for the next album.
Awesome.
And this will be the first time we dived into new material.
And since inspiration is for amateurs, when you show up to create this new content, new material for a new album, okay, you're not showing up with inspiration. So are we just showing up and listening? And I just would love to be a fly on that wall when you're creating new music.
Bring the lunch, do it. That's pretty much it.
And we've started online doing, I say online, sending, Greg writes, he sent lyrics to me, and I'm working on some ideas from that. And then we're going to collaborate all together in person. And so we're not going in totally, with a total blank sheet of paper here. But it is showing up and just working through concepts, ideas, and exploring together on it.
When it comes to lyrics, because if I'm sitting down, or I'm a writer, and so I'm writing about my own life, but when it's 3 people, I don't know, again, with different songs, but, let's say, Ryan, you really want to write about this woman who broke your heart when you were 16, for instance. And then is everyone writing around that? Or then Greg's bringing in his heartache, and Derek's thinking of Sally from 6th grade. And how does that collaboration work? Sorry, I'm just giving a silly example. I got the title for that one,
6th grade Sally. We got it.
Yeah. My approach to writing lyrics is you never know where you're going to get inspired to write something. Sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's political, sometimes it's just nonsense. You get a thing in your head and you just start putting words to type in text into your phone, or words to pen to paper or whatever. And sometimes a full song will come out. Sometimes it's just a little snippet, which I'll tuck away. And then later I'll go through and look through all those bits and actually find 3 or 4 that it's these actually all work together really well. And there's a song. So, heartache is definitely, that's kind of low hanging fruit in the music business, but I don't know. Yeah. You never know what's going to inspire you.
And do you want to touch what's going on socially and politically? What is your stance or take on that, to do it in such a public way in 2025 in America?
I think it's a really important time to speak up about what's going on. That's what the administration wants, is people to be complicit and silent. You just look at what happened last week with the cancellation of a Stephen Colbert and his show, which is 100% political. You can't convince me that it was for financial reasons. It's definitely the time to speak up and to speak against those injustices. And, and punk is very inclusive and has always basically been a place to stand up and speak out against authority. So we gotta keep doing it.
I think on a personal level, this last run that we did, the West Coast, we went up to, started out in Washington, and we were supposed to meet with headline band who is from Canada. And they came to the border and just sat there and were never given their work permits to get into the States. So we had to start the tour without the headlining act. And, we were thrown into doing these headlining shows. But mysteriously, with no reason, they just weren't given their work permits. They had applied in plenty of time. And that's, we could go into why that is, but we kind of know why that is. And that just happened. So it's very personal. It's very right on, in the moment for us.
Ryan, anything there?
Yeah, I think we're all pretty passionate about politics and what's going on right now. And I don't think that it's a time to sing about, flowers and happiness. There's a lot going on. Not every genre maybe has that part of the music that's supposed to be speaking about social political things, but punk rock definitely has that ingrained into the music. So I think it's on everybody's mind. It's going to come out into the music.
Have you ever felt silenced in this industry, or, you were around before cancel culture and stuff, but have you ever felt because of labels or one thing or another that you couldn't say certain things? Or even now, are there any fears or concerns? Or are you just like, we're going to let it all rip? And again, you have the punk genre behind you where you can be a little more out there, but are there any fears or concerns with expressing yourselves creatively in this climate?
No.
Not really. I mean, the thing is it always seems that people that do complain that like, oh, I can't say this anymore. It's like, well, why would you say that in the first place? Too many people don't think before they speak. If you're a good person and you're looking out for everybody and you want to bring everybody in, to your table, you're not going to be out there spewing a bunch of stupid stuff that's going to alienate people. So
I'm curious if each of you could share a story from your just really incredible music career that has really made you who you are today as an artist, and then how you bring that into UltraBomb to make it a success now and moving forward.
You go first, Ryan.
Okay. Well, let me think about that. So you're asking about like a transformative point of music.
Yeah, or just like something first that comes to mind and you think like this happened and how it really, impacted you as an artist.
What I'll say for that is I've seen over and over that every show that you play has an impact no matter how many people are there. So whether there's a small crowd or a big crowd, every show is very important. And I've seen other bands have like life-changing experiences because of one show where there was no one at, or there were like two people there, and the two people that were there ended up being, like from the music business in Europe, and then they passed around the information about this band, and then within a night, and for example, this band Radkey, they're really good friends of mine from long ago, and I saw them play at South by Southwest, and they played to two people other than me and the band I was there with. And the two people were big executives from England. And then they had another show at South by Southwest that night. And we also went to that expecting to see nobody there. And the room was like completely packed with people from the music business in England. And then they had a big record deal. They were on tour with Metallica and doing all kinds of cool stuff within this short period of time. They were managed by the same people as the White Stripes. The point is, like, if they had blown off that show and thought, like, we're just playing for our friends and these two random people here. I mean, it's not about what you're going to get out of it. But the point is, like, you can have hugely impactful things happen from, whoever is there. So whether it means like it leads to something cool, or it just means that it really affected the people that were there. They might have gotten inspired to pick up guitar. They might decide to, start writing music or start a record label, or you don't know what impact those shows have. So like every time you play, just give it your all,
I love that. And then just quickly, I'm putting you on the spot here, but even I love that story so much. I felt that because even sometimes you post something you think is epic on Instagram, for instance, and the algorithms, everything, and you're like, man, that didn't get much reach. And then it's like, well, what if it impacted just one person? Is that one person not worthy of that? Or you're right, whether the one person is, someone who can't do anything for you or your career, or isn't even going to tell you what you did, or that person, right, puts you on a huge show or something. But is there something else that happened to you or for you personally that has really shaped you, who you are today and how you show up?
I'm sure there is. I don't know.
Okay, you can think about it. You can think about it.
Think about that.
Okay. Derek or Greg?
The very first show that I played that wasn't just a party or like a backyard thing, which was it was a VFW hall. I was like probably 18, 19, working at a record store in Fullerton. And there was this really cute girl I wanted to ask out, and we had a show lined up, right? So I asked her, to bring her to this my very first show with Social Distortion, and so she did. And get to the warehouse, and it's a pretty big warehouse. It's in East LA, and this is like in the early '80s when like the gangs were at their height and crime was insane in Los Angeles. So the place fills up, and I forget who else was on the bill. Some other bands that are, pretty known. But the first thing that happens is there's a big circle pit, and somebody gets stabbed in the circle pit, then dragged out. The gig just gets crazier and crazier, and the violence was just, off the hook. So we play our show, and then as soon as we walk outside, somebody's shooting the gas station right across the street. And then there's just swarms of police cars coming to the show. And then they see all these punks like leaving the door, walking out. And that was when, like, oh my God, look at this. There's a guy with a mohawk. So just complete mayhem. And that was my first punk rock show.
And you're still here signing up for this. I love it.
Yeah. I'm like walking out with my date, and just like, okay. We just kind of look at each other like, yeah, all right. So we'll run towards the fire, I guess. And, this is just how things are with, this is what it's like to play gigs as a musician.
Wow. And you started dating after that?
Yeah.
Okay. Naturally. Okay, great.
I got the girl, and, that kind of started the whole, like, wow, this is really dangerous and exciting. Just, you have to think about different things and not just music, and not just, how to play the notes and the songs, and, there's just a whole world wrapped around it. Get used to it.
And yeah, thanks for reminding me, because I always say, oh, I just want to go back to the 80s and 90s when things were so great. And I love that you bring up, and like crime was so bad in Los Angeles, things get somewhat better and crime is bad again. So thanks for just even reminding me of the circles and cycles of life. And, the 80s weren't perfect either. So there's always stuff to manage outside of our own little personal lives and bubbles. Greg, what's coming up for you? I know there's a story here.
Going off of Ryan's story about singing Radkey with two other people, in the early Hüsker days, we'd be out on the road, and you'd get a phone number from somebody. It's like, call this number, they'll put out a show, and then you would ship, that person be like, yeah, I'll do a show. And then you'd show up and just hope that there would be people there. We played a lot of shows to small crowds, and we'd get up and we'd start playing. And if, interestingly enough, if it didn't look like people were getting into it, then we'd literally try to clear the room. We would just get louder, play crazier. And it's like, all right, let's see if we could actually get everybody the hell out of here. And those shows are I think, good ego checks. Number one, keep you humble. But the fact is that we kept at it, right? And so then eventually, the band starts to get a reputation for being just this intense thing. And so now the rooms are filling up, and, the crowds are getting bigger, and eventually Hüsker Dü signs to Warner Brothers, which is amazing, right? And by the way, once I signed to Warner Brothers, my mom stopped asking if I was going to get a real job.
How old were you when that happened?
Let's see. We signed to Warner Brothers in 1985, September of 85. So I was 26.
Wow. Still young. Very young.
Yep.
Oh, good old mom.
The band broke up 2 years later, and then it was back to square one. And since then, I with various bands, I've played to very small rooms, to, the point where you can literally just get off stage and, instead of thanking everybody from stage, you just get down and just walk around and shake everybody's hand and say, thanks for coming and sticking around. Fame's not guaranteed, and it's also fleeting. So another reason to treat everybody kindly, because you never know who you're going to see on the way back down. As I think too many people step on people on the way up. So.
Yeah. And I'm hearing just perspective there, because as a creative myself, and sometimes, you just get so filled with frustration. We've all experienced doubts, one thing or another. You look at some people and you don't think their work seems kind of bland or generic, but they're crushing it because maybe they're appealing to the masses or something. And I just love the confidence, and again, the audacity to, oh, they're not liking it. And so just literally blasting them out of the room. But then that became your thing. And then the rooms are filled. I mean, I hope I'm taking in so many epic lessons that my head is exploding, because again, you're not just saying the words, you embody it, you're living it and do live it in real time. And that is the confidence, and not being like, oh gosh, but just rocking it even harder. And that becomes your thing. It's for me, I'm feeling it in my chest. It's like exploding because I feel like an amateur with this inspiration here, but I am very inspired by these stories.
It actually, I think all of us have had moments in our careers where we're like, what am I doing? What am I even thinking? But you love the music so much that you keep doing it and you don't give up. So.
And is that something where in that moment you're on stage looking at each other? I don't know how you were, I don't know, there's no right or wrong answer. If you're feeling insecure, if you're feeling and you kind of look at each other, we're like, well, screw it. And you're just blast people out of the room. Can you talk about that moment? Because we've all had that moment creatively and how we can all kind of just like, well, screw it and blast people out of the room. Can you tap into that energy for me? Because I'm feeling it.
I think the main thing is the number of people in the audience, be it 2 people or a packed room. I'm still going to get up and play as hard as I can and play my heart out. Sometimes the motivation to do that comes from different parts of your brain. It's like, there's nobody here. Well, this is going to make me play angry tonight or whatever. Or the room is packed and it's like, oh, wow, now it's coming from a point of joy. But the whole thing is like you're playing your heart out and giving it your all, regardless of who's in the audience and how many people are there. So, and I think that's just more being true to myself as a musician more than anything else.
So if I were to go to an UltraBomb concert next week, what is that emotion that the 3 of you are collectively playing with right now?
Probably, okay, we're going to actually get to play the shows this time. This is going to be great.
So gratitude,
urgency, catharsis, and a little bit of rage.
Yeah. There we go. Every time, UltraBomb gets up there, there's a sense of urgency. The band is very dynamic and we play loud and we play fast, So that's definitely the urgency there. Sprinkle in a little rage. That's okay too.
I want to hear more about the rage because I worked with my therapist this past year with a little bit of rage. We all have it. We all have childhood trauma. You guys have been through a lot, I know. But speak a little bit about that rage. And, I was a swimmer, so I got a lot of emotions out literally in the pool through exercise. But can you, as a non-musician, I just would like to even feel that in my body, kind of what you're feeling. Because I'm feeling that release. Oof.
I think that this kind of music, punk rock and what UltraBomb is doing, gives you a medium to just let your frustrations out. It's super healthy. There's so many things to be frustrated about now. Where do we start? I mean, just the world is a mess. The political situation is disastrous. It's frustrating, and you put all of your frustrations and anger into the music, and it's a healthy way to deal with it. It's a really healthy way, I think, for everybody that's at the show to let it out and hopefully, in a way, make the world a better place by doing it. It's allowing a space for people to feel these intense emotions that are going on right now.
Yeah, we have a job where we can go to work and just scream. I'm sure a lot of people would love to go to their jobs and just scream, but it's okay when we do it.
Oh my God, I love it. I need to come to a show. You're right. What a release.
Yeah, I feel like we've allowed ourselves, to like tighten up the set, but then for certain endings and segues, it's like, okay, primal therapy.
Yeah. This question's coming to mind. Forgive me if it sounds silly, but Ryan, for instance, do your bandmates from Soul Asylum, do they feel like you're cheating on them, or do they get mad when you kind of leave them and go off to UltraBomb? How does that work when everyone's part of different love groups here?
I mean, there's a long history between Hüsker Dü and Soul Asylum, and I think there's a brotherhood of sorts with bands from Minneapolis that are with a similar aesthetic and ethos and stuff. So I feel like it's kind of all in the family more than anything. Yeah, it's difficult to try to to make it all work, but I think I feel everybody's like if the desire is there to make it work, it will, and it does. So yeah, so as far as I know, everything is totally cool in that way.
Thanks for that. So it's more of a family instead of, some catty fight.
Yeah, I think the part of the music scene in Minneapolis that I know and love is like supportive, and it's not like competitive. It's not really. I mean, yeah, there's competition, of course. Yeah, I don't mean to, but the catty part of it is, I don't know. Like, I don't see that a whole lot. I'm really glad I don't, because that's not fun for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Actually, it's I think this is kind of funny. Yeah, I mean, I started out in 1979 in Hüsker Dü, and it seems like back then it's like, you were in just one band and you put all of your energy into one band, and if somebody was like, had a side project, it was like you were stepping out on your main gig. And today, all the musicians that I know are all in multiple projects. And it's like, oh, you're only in one band? Man, that's kind of lazy. It's like, so I think there's, people, there's a better understanding that like you can have multiple things going on and you're not taking away from any other one of your projects. And I think that's great.
Thank you guys so much. It's flown. It's been so fun. But I guess what has been the biggest delight, surprise, blessing here with joining forces with this group at this stage in your life and career?
I think it's an exciting new opportunity to be creative, like to collaborate with these guys. It feels really fresh and really exciting to me. So that's the thing that I guess I'm most excited about, is like working on new material with these guys. And like I said, I have the utmost respect for them and fans of their bands and everything that they've been doing over the years. So that's really cool, to this like far into the game, to have this new like this new door open. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Thank you so much. And we'll let you run.
Thank you so much.
Session. It was so nice to meet you. Be in touch. Thank you.
Guys.
He's so cute. Okay. Derek or Greg, want to take that?
Well, for me, Darren Heeman actually introduced me to the band, and we were going to work together where I was going to produce some recordings with them. So I went to Punk Rock Bowling and we hung out a little bit, chit-chatted with everyone. And then shortly after that, their drummer left. So then, Greg suggested that I come in as drummer. So it was like a whole different thing, but it sounded like a great opportunity. And it was like, yeah, sure, I'll do some recordings with them. And then I listened to the 2 albums, gave them a really serious listen. I was like, holy shit, this stuff's really good, And then I was like really into it. And then, we talked about just having me come in. I was like, okay. So one conversation on the phone was like, all right, you're the drummer. Like, okay. But yeah, it was really exciting coming in. And then we played a couple of shows in San Diego. The first one, I had like all my notes written out and some charts and all this stuff, because I was still kind of learning this stuff. And then, after that, I felt a little bit more comfortable. But then something else happened. The singer guitar player, and again, it's just a 3-piece band. So like a third of the band left. And then we were left scratching our heads, okay, so what are we going to do now? So it was going to throw it into an interesting situation, but like the music was there, the energy, the whole, nucleus, but not the band members. And then we kicked around a bunch of ideas, and then finally Ryan came up. I think Darren suggested him, but Greg had already known Ryan. And then, I just kind of hoped for the best, and he showed up and he was the best.
Wow.
It was like, okay, and then I think just weird happened, but then all of a sudden everything's back and it's like way better.
Wow. It's just reminding me like to let go of things needing to be perfect. I mean, you guys are all just going with the flow. I guess you're great at that as musicians, but it's kind of like everything went to but then the 3 of you here now, it's so perfect. It's such a good metaphor and lesson.
It's like, people running out of a burning building, but the fireman runs towards the fire. We're kind of the firemen. And then it just worked out that way. And then at the last tour that we did, we got into it and we had to cancel the tour after 3 shows. And Greg made a comment that I'll never forget, which I think would be a great title for the next album, Built on Sacred Burial Grounds. Because I feel like this band was built on a sacred burial ground, and now we're paying the price.
Wow.
Many up things have happened, but then all of a sudden it just comes right back together. And I mean, that's why the band started and why Greg put this band together and what was there to begin with, and he added the other elements that just seemed to be the right fit. And now it's a stronger thing.
That gives me hope. Thank you. Thank you. And Greg, you're a resilient dude.
That's the word I was going to use. I think you have to be resilient, and you need to. I mean, this is my passion. This is the thing that keeps me young and keeps me going. So, I had mentioned earlier that we all have moments where we think like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? But like I said, it really does boil down to the fact that I love doing it. I love playing the music, and it doesn't matter if there's 2 people in the audience or if we're playing a packed house. And being able to play with Derek and Ryan is a treat because these guys are super talented musicians. I'm really looking forward to us starting the creative cycle now for this next record.
Yeah.
And, and I was really lucky. UltraBomb recorded 2 albums literally in the studio in 4 days, both times, which was a little nerve wracking, but it worked and we got lucky. But part of that, I think, gets back to the fact that Jamie Oliver and Finney McConnell are both, have been in the business so long, and they're both really talented. And like I said, we've got, had a deep toolbox to dive into, and that's why it worked. But not necessarily a model that I wanted to continue working with. And so I'm excited to start writing new music with these guys next week and see where it goes.
I can even just feel, without even hearing the music, which would put a whole other charge in my body, just energetically, each of you on your own, but together, I'm feeling so amped up. Usually I feel quite sleepy at this time of day. I'm just slowly getting into my flow, and I feel amped up like it's 9 p.m. and I'm ready to go on the weekend or something. So thank you. I can feel the passion in your bones, and so I can't even imagine how the audience feels when you're performing. And you're getting the rage out and you're screaming and the music's loud. So I really hope that everyone can experience this. And then when can we expect another album from this trio?
Well, if everything goes to schedule, we should have a new record out next spring, early spring.
Awesome. And then in terms of the tour, it's going to continue on for, is it another month?
We've got it August 1st through the 9th. We're playing 9 shows in a row around the Great Lakes, kind of the Rust Belt tour. And there's some irons in the fire, so to speak, for fall tours, but nothing solid yet. So that's where the agent needs to do their job.
Okay. Well, we'll get the agent going and we'll all stay tuned. All of your information will be in the show notes. Just quickly, I know I got to let you guys go, but I just, for those of us who, we're going through a lot, we feel stuck creatively. We feel stuck creatively. We're navigating so much. We're feeling all the feels. I mean, you're just like the cat with 25 lives, and to be doing this for, my God, I was born in 78. You started Hüsker Dü in 79 and you're still rocking. I would just one little tidbit. I have so many takeaways from today, but one little tidbit of how and the dog's even getting all fired up. Even the dog is getting excited.
Exactly.
How do we all just keep going when things seem down, when the cards are stacked against us, when the world is on fire? How do we keep going creatively?
I guess it's the only way I know to keep to operate is just to kind of take those situations and turn it into some music, which makes it a positive. For me, anyway.
I think probably for me, it was the creativity is because of those adverse conditions. And it's always been that way for me. The more it comes at me with adversity, the more I get in touch with what's creative, because that's always gotten me through. That's what I trust the most.
Just leaning into that through the trust. Thank you both so much. The punk rock supergroup. I love the supergroup instead of former band of this. So I get what it fully means now. I had an idea, but thank you so much, members of UltraBomb.
Thank you, Kate.
You've just been such a delight, and I feel so fired up, and I hope everybody else does too. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
It was great. Thank you.
It was so fun. And thanks to all of you for being here. Go check them out. Get the rage out. Get the creativity flowing. We'll see you next week right here on Raj. Bye, everybody.